The Braves won Game 1 against the Dodgers last night, and honestly, can't help but feel really encouraged by the way they did it. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today, a production of the Belief Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. I want to talk a little bit later about what's going on with Ronald Acuña Jr. Last night was incredibly frustrating from an offensive perspective. We're going to get to that. I want to talk about some of the injury updates that we got from Walt Weiss yesterday and how less than encouraging about the timelines on some of these guys. But before we do that, Braves win Game 1 against the Dodgers 4-3. And honestly, you can't help but be encouraged by the way that Game 1 went. Braves jump out to an early lead on Tyler Glasnow before he's able to kind of settle in and unleash the ace caliber stuff that he has. Bryce Elder makes it through a quality start, and you're able to get the plays you need late to come away with the victory. And the Braves really just got on Glasnow immediately. Drake Baldwin opens the game with a single through the right side. Ronald Acuña Jr., again, we're going to get to him a little bit later, frustratingly pops out to first for the first out of the game. Swings on the first pitch. Fastball kind of down the middle. Doesn't work out. But Matt Olson sends Baldwin to third with a single through the right side. Mauricio Dubon singles to right. You know, one of those patented Mauricio Dubon soft swing, just kind of flare it out there. Scores a run. Michael Harris shoots one through the right side, scores another run. Ozzie Albies gets a sacrifice fly, brings in a third run. Should have been 4. Mike Yastrzemski with 2 outs gets, there's a passed ball that just clangs off of Hunter Fiducia's glove and rolls all the way to the thing. Michael Harris runs in from third, and the umpire decides that, no, that was actually a foul ball. Replay showed Yastrzemski never touches it. Now, he should never have swung, right? It's both down and in, but Yastrzemski never touches it. That's not a reviewable play. The Braves can't call for a review there. Walt Weiss said after the game he doesn't understand why. Quote, not a reviewable play. I'm not sure why that's the case, but that's the rules. I'd like to hear the argument against it. I don't think there is one. I kind of agree with Walt Weiss. So they end up coming away with 3 runs. LA gets 2 of those back in the top of the second inning off of Bryce Elder. And I think this is a situation where 2 things can be true at once here. One, it was very frustrating that it was another situation where Bryce Elder got some runs of support and then immediately turned around and gave some of those back. That has happened multiple times this year, and it is frustrating. At the same time, the way that it happened, it's very hard to be mad about the way that it happened because it looked to be very fluky. He did leave a pitch in a bad place against Max Muncy, who hit a ground ball through the right side at 100 miles an hour to open the inning. Legitimately a bad pitch. Okay. Tommy Edman then grounds out to Ozzie. Muncy's out at second, actually. Edman's safe at first, so it's a force out. And it was a changeup, bottom of the zone on a 2-1 pitch. Not a great pitch, but not a bad pitch. Kyle Tucker then hits a soft liner back up the middle for a single, but moves Edman to second. It's a sinker that is 2 ball widths off the plate away on a 1-0 count. It's really hard to be mad at Bryce Elder for the pitch. 1-0 count, 2 ball widths off the plate away, and Tucker goes out and gets it. Okay. Alex Call strikes out on the foul tip. Alek Thomas singles to score Edman. It's a slider below the zone. It's not very much below the zone. It's probably touching the bottom. But it's not like he hung a slider middle. And it's not like he got hit incredibly hard. Hunter Fiducia, the number 9 hitter, then hits a liner to left. And this one's even worse. It's a 1-0 changeup that is a ball width and a half or two ball widths below the zone. Another situation where it's not a bad pitch from Bryce Elder. They just go down and get it. And the Braves had some of those in the first half too, or in the first inning too. I think it was Matt Olson single. He golfs that bad boy like off the dirt. It's a curveball almost in the dirt. Heck, not Drake Baldwin. His was fine. Mauricio Dubon's single in the first was a curveball that was like, it looked like it was going to hit the plate. And he goes down and gets it. So sometimes this happens. It's not necessarily the pitcher being bad. It's just the hitter, good piece of hitting. But Elder does eventually get out of it, and he goes on to finish 6 innings. We'll get to his final line in a minute. I want to finish with the actual game and what happened in the game first. And after the Dodgers pick up one more in the fourth, nobody else scores until we get to the bottom of the 8th. Nobody even had an extra base hit until we get to the bottom of the 8th. Everything is singles for both teams at this point. And I do want to point out, too, for Elder, I probably should save this for when I break him down, but the big three at the top of the order, Ohtani, Freeman, and Betts, were 0 for 9 with a strikeout off of Elder. He didn't let them beat him. But in the 8th inning, bottom of the 8th, Matt Olson leads off. This is a left-on-left double off of Tanner Scott. 102 off the bat. It's a four-seam fastball in the zone. He just rips it and then beats the throw to second. The slide is ugly. The slide is an awful slide. But he gets the double. Mauricio Dubon shows bunt, pulls it back, and just punches a ground out to second, which moves Olson to third. And Weiss said after the game that, we didn't call that. He just did that on his own, which, it's fine. That's not a big deal. Michael Harris then gets too excited trying to drive the run in. He really kind of ruins this. He ends up swinging at a elevated inside slider that's close to hitting him in the hands and just weakly grounds out back to the pitcher, less than 50 miles an hour. Olson stuck at third. And I'm like, oh no. You're gonna ruin the scoring chance. Ozzie Albies line drive single, scores Olson. It is and it's a great piece of hitting from Ozzie because we know Ozzie swings at a lot of pitches that are out of the zone. He gets up 0-2. He takes a slider down, he takes a fastball up, and then when the 0-2 slider is the 2-0 slider is in the zone, because Tanner Scott has to throw a strike here, Ozzie just serves it in the center field. Matt Olson scores, Braves have the lead. And then play immediately threatens. Shohei Ohtani leads off the top of the 9th with a triple off of Raisel Iglesias. And I'm going to say this was ruled a hit. This was not ruled an error. It's really hard to fault Iglesias here. He's down 1-0. He throws a sinker off the plate away. And Ohtani, because Ohtani's a freak, not only does he go out and get it, but he hits it at 103 in the air to left. And this ball just keeps carrying. Jake made the joke on the postcast last night. It was like they subbed in the special Ohtani balls for this at-bat, because this ball just keeps carrying. Thomas keeps drifting back, ends up getting to the wall and jumps to make the catch, and it just clangs off of his glove and off of the wall. Ohtani's into third with a triple. Leadoff triple in a one-run game. And Raisel Iglesias just cowboys up and gets out of it. He punches out Freddie Freeman on probably the best changeup I have seen him throw all year. It is just beautiful on a 3-2 count, below the zone, gets Freddie to swing through it. He then gets Mookie Betts to ground out weakly. I mean, it's like a 72-mile-an-hour ground out to short. Ohtani's obviously stuck at third still. They intentionally walk Max Muncy, which, okay, he's been super hot recently, to get to Tommy Edman. And then Tommy Edman kind of gives it a ride, but flies out to center field, ball game, Braves win. Massive hit from Ozzie, massive save from Iglesias. And the big takeaway for me in this one is all of the things that you don't want to happen happened in this game, right? You lose out on a run and you kill a rally in the first inning with a bad call. You have what felt like an error at the time. I consulted with an MLB scorer that is going to stick as a triple. It fits all the rules to actually be ruled a hit. It was an ordinary effort from Thomas. He had to jump for it. The wall was involved. Like, it's going to stick as a triple. But it was a catchable ball. You have breaks go against you, right? And you still find a way to win. And now the Braves have won 3 of their last 5 games against playoff caliber opponents. And so, like, as frustrating as it was to lose the series to New York and to Arizona and to Milwaukee, you're in a situation where, like, hey, they've actually, like, they did okay. They've done okay in the last couple games. And you can see how some of the breaks going their way has kind of been the difference. They've been evenly matched in a lot of these games. I made the point, I think, yesterday. They've not been blown out in any of these. Like, they've all been close games. They got a couple breaks, and they won some. And then they didn't get some breaks, like last night, and they still won last night. So I'm sure there are people who are not going to feel like things are okay for October or have any, or change their mind that this team is in trouble once October gets here. But for me, they didn't have an extra base hit until the 8th, no home runs, a couple breaks go against them, and they still find a way to win. Makes me feel a little bit better about October. And Bryce Elder, on that note, 6 innings, 3 runs, again, 2 of them in that second inning, no walks, 5 strikeouts. He does give up 8 hits, which is important to point out. But they're all singles. Of the 21 balls that were put into play, only 4 of them were hard hit. And the average exit velocity he allowed was 84.7 miles an hour. They were just not making good contact off of Bryce Elder. And again, he held the big 3 to 0 for 9 with 1 strikeout. And of the hard hit balls, all 3 of them, like it was a 107.1 ground out by Mookie Betts. It was a single by Hunter Fiducia and a single by Max Muncy that were both like 101. They were all hit with launch angles 4 degrees or less. So they were all hit on the ground. 2 of them came off the sinker. They were all hit on the ground. He did not allow a single hard hit fly ball in the entire game. The hardest ball that was in the air that he allowed was 93 miles an hour. And Mark Bowman put a really controversial tweet out last night that said, like, in essence, over the last year, the Bryce Elder we've seen is a playoff starter. 3.51 ERA in 7 starts since the break. Had that, and Bowman made this point. I'm not making this point. Bowman made the point that if that strike 3 in the first inning against the Mets on August 10th was challenged and the rest of the runs in that inning didn't come up, his ERA would be 2.53 since the break. While I still think our best path forward is Game 2 being Tyler Mahle and Game 3 being AJ Smith-Shawver, and we'll see Smith-Shawver tonight against Roki Sasaki. And if you want more about that, go to the scouting report. It'll drop, I think, like 4 o'clock or so today, once the lineups are out, breaking down the pitchers and the lineup and the bullpen status and everything. While I still think that Mahle and AJ Smith-Shawver are your guys to go to in the postseason, odds are you're going to need to piggyback one or both of them. I think Martin Perez is going to be a weapon there, the ability to induce a soft contact. And I think the healthy version of Bryce Elder, which we saw last night, we haven't seen it a ton over the summer. That's why they skipped him. He had that knee issue. The healthy version of Bryce Elder that can keep balls on the ground, that can minimize hard contact, and can use that changeup to get swing and miss. I think that version of Bryce Elder can be a really useful contrast to a Tyler Mahle or an AJ Smith-Shawver in relief for 2 innings, maybe even one time through the order in the postseason. Now, am I going to want to have a quick hook on him? Yes. I'm not going to want to run the risk of him letting the game get away from him if it's the bad Bryce Elder, right? But if it's the good Bryce Elder, then yes, give me Bryce Elder. Give me that version of Bryce Elder for 2-3 innings, piggybacking somebody. That's a good way to help you get the 27 outs. And I do think you're probably going to need him to help find those 27 outs, because some of the updates we got yesterday on the injuries were frankly not that promising. Let's talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. Part of the reason you went and got Tyler Mahle at the deadline, and part of the reason that we're talking about Bryce Elder getting innings in October, is because all of the injuries to the Braves rotation. You lost Spencer Schwellenbach and Hurston Waldrep early in spring. You lost Spencer Strider multiple times this year. Hurston Waldrep went down again. You lost Reynaldo López multiple stretches here. And we got updates on all of these guys yesterday. Whenever somebody asks for injury updates, I always remind them that, like, hey, it's almost always going to come when the Braves are back at home and they're in the interview room. And that's what we got from Walt Weiss before the game yesterday. None of the updates in and of themselves were inherently negative. But the calendar is just working against the Braves now. Reynaldo López is the one you can feel kind of okay about, right? He's been out since the start of August with left knee inflammation. If you remember, he was scratched before a start with like an hour's notice. Martin Perez was asked to start with like 30 minutes before the game. Took a no-hitter into the seventh. Just dog with a W. Well, Reynaldo López made a rehab start on Sunday in Gwinnett. 4 scoreless innings, 3 hits, 3 strikeouts, 50 pitches. And they said yesterday he's going to get another rehab start. Walt Weiss said he'll throw on Friday in Gwinnett. The goal is 65 pitches. And going from 50 to 65, and not 50 to 75, which is a common move that they make at times, tells me that they're not really trying to rush and get López back. And I think there's a couple reasons you can slow play this. I think the first one is the velo wasn't there in the last rehab start. He averaged 93.5 on the four-seamer, which is a full mile an hour below his season average, which is already lower than it was in 24. Before the shoulder surgeries and all that stuff. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is you don't really have a spot for him right now. You're currently running a 6-man rotation. We're waiting to find out, does Grant Holmes get moved to the pen? Does A.J. Smith-Shawver get moved to the pen? I'm guessing that today's start from A.J. Smith-Shawver is going to go a long way to determine that. If he can give them some length, if he can go 5, and still show the velo, still show the control, still show the swing and miss ability, then even with Holmes taking a no-hit bid kind of deep over the weekend, you're still probably starting Smith-Shawver and putting Holmes in relief. But, like, what does López do? They've said that they view him as a starter. He's been an effective reliever before. You already have too many starters. Who's he going to bump out of the rotation? And so I could see them, you do this. This kind of lets you slow play when you get him back. You can either shoot for 75 pitches in a third rehab outing, or you can look for better velocity. And if he gets there, once you hit September 1st and you have an extra roster spot, you don't have to bring him back as a starter. You can bring him back as a bulk guy. You can just leave him and Holmes both amorphous and know that one or both of them could work in relief because they've both done that. They both have the experience being told, hey, you're in the pen. We'll use you to start if we need to, but if not, we're going to use you out of the bullpen. And if the velo can come back, then you can see how he fits into that 27 outs philosophy in October. Like if he can get into that 70-75 pitch range and the velo's back, that's 12 to 15 outs in October. whether he's a starter, whether he's following somebody else. And you're probably going to need that because some of the other updates we got yesterday weren't great. Walt Weiss said that Robert Suárez is, quote, still moving slowly in his throwing progression. He recently extended it out to 100 feet to help to continue building the arm strength back up where it needs to be, but he hasn't yet thrown off a mound. And that's a little bit concerning, right? Like, look at the calendar here. You have to work off the mound before you can do a full bullpen session. You usually need multiple of those, and or live BP before you can go do a rehab assignment. And even if Weiss is correct that Suárez being close to that bullpen session's correct, you're still cutting things pretty close. He hasn't thrown in a game since June 19th. There's been no timetable for any of the steps that I mentioned in here. And the problem is, there's just not much time left. Like, even the rehab outings have a kind of a deadline here. The Gwinnett season's on September 20th. And Alex Anthopoulos at the trade deadline said they were shooting for Suárez to be back by October, not August. And Walt Weiss said yesterday there was a chance he could be back during the regular season. And this is kind of the first time that I'm a little bit nervous about it, right? I kind of assumed they were taking their time with this and just kind of slow playing it because they didn't necessarily have to have him and they wanted to make sure he was 100% for October. And it'd be huge to get him. He's probably the best high leverage arm that they had this year outside of maybe Dylan Lee, and I'd argue probably even above Dylan Lee. He's the guy they deployed as the fireman whenever they were in a jam. And when Iggy went down, he was the closer. There's just no wiggle room with this schedule. There's no setback you can absorb and still get him back. And so I've mentally adjusted this from being probable that he's back to like it's possible that he's back. I've kind of downgraded in my mind. The fact he's still not throwing off a mound in late August is cutting this very close. And I don't want his first game action to be in October in a leverage moment. I'd rather it be that final week of September. Ideally, you have games that don't matter. You can find a leverage situation in there and you can use them. The area where Walt Weiss's update was pretty telling was when it came to the trio of starters, Schwellenbach, Strider, and Waldrep. The quote here from Weiss is, "The window's getting smaller for them. I'm not ruling it out, but you just do the math on those type of things." There was no meaningful progression announced on the throwing programs that they've all been doing. Schwellenbach started his in June, and he's still not been able to go and get the velo and throw everything that he needs to throw. Waldrep and Strider started theirs early in August, and just no updates on the throwing progression, no meaningful progression announced today. And you got to do the throwing progression, then go to mound work, live BP, rehab assignment, and then being activated. And even if everything proceeds perfectly from this point on, there's just not very many calendar squares left. The team's not going to rule them out officially until it's just too late. There's just either medically necessary or they are certain they're not coming back. And I want to be clear, Walt Weiss did not officially rule them out. But it just feels like it's very unreasonable to expect them back. And I feel like Walt Weiss was making that point without explicitly saying it. Quote, "You just do the math on these type of things" is a pretty telling quote from the manager of the club. So I'm not counting on them back. Now, the good news is this will help them. We've seen this before. I mentioned this before. This helps getting the confidence back so that they can have a normal offseason before next year. And it's entirely possible that you see Schwellenbach and Strider in your top 5 starters to open 2027, whenever that starts. I've gone on the record as saying I don't think we're not going to miss a season. I don't think we're going to miss very many games, if any at all. It may start late, but I think it happens. And that's not a discussion for today. I have reasons why I don't think the owners are going to blow the whole season up right now, but we can do that a different day. But I do want to pass along a really exciting and fun update, though. Joe Jimenez is not only throwing, but he's throwing well. 2024, he was quietly one of the more dominant relievers that season. ERA was like 2.62 because he had like a one or two bad outings. StatCast card was pretty bright red. It was a lot of like 96th percentile, 93rd percentile, 91st percentile, 97th, like a lot of bright red on there. Other than his fastball velo, which took a hit late when he was dealing with a cartilage issue in his knee. He eventually needed to have surgery soon after the season ended, after the 2024 season, and he's still not back. He needed 2 additional surgeries on that knee. He tried to make it back last year, couldn't do it. Like, if I remember right, he had a surgery early in spring last year, a second surgery. He tried to make it back last year, couldn't make it back, had to have another surgery then. And like, it was legitimately one of those questioning whether or not he was going to ever play again kind of things. The good news is he just finished his 5th bullpen session since the injury, or since the latest surgery, right? And he said afterwards on social media, he feels the best that he ever has, or the best that he has since he suffered the initial injury. Quote, "There's still work to do, but I can feel it. I'm getting closer to playing again, one day at a time. Keep pushing." It's genuinely good news. It's just probably not 2026 Braves news. Like, after everything he's been through the last couple of years, including like potentially having the game taken away from him, I'm very happy that he's been able to get back on the mound, complete 5 bullpens. That in itself is very good news. Don't judge his progress by whether or not he makes it back this year. I do think if he wants to continue his comeback, I would be in favor of some sort of minor league deal with a non-roster invite to spring training. You know, he'll be a free agent. He got paid the last 2 years by the Braves, the last 2 years of his contract. He'll be a free agent after this year. I'm okay with him coming back, especially with the lockout coming. The Braves know more about his medical history and his rehab progress than virtually anyone. It would be a little bit of continuity for him to have a chance to come back. I don't want to commit guaranteed money to him. And this sounds kind of dumb. You've paid him guaranteed money the last 2 years and gotten no performance out of it. I'm not going to make the argument that he owes us. That's not how this works. But I do think it would make a lot of sense for both the Braves and Jimenez to work out some sort of minor league deal and him have a chance to rejoin the bullpen next year. But ultimately, like, you're narrowing down the list of pitchers in October. No Schwellenbach, no Strider, no Waldrep, almost certainly not coming, right? The odds are very much against them. Reynaldo López is the realistic reinforcement. Robert Suárez is the wild card that I feel like is going to make it. And maybe you find a prospect or two. I've been begging the table for Blake Burkhalter. We're going to write about that and talk about that on the show pretty soon. But like, the guys you have are the guys you have, and the list is getting smaller. And they're starting to figure out how they're going to get their 27 outs. You're starting to be able to map that out a little more accurately now, both with the information you've gotten since the trade deadline and information on what guys you will and won't have. In just a minute, let's talk about Ronald Acuña Jr. He had some opportunities last night to produce, and for the most part, wasn't able to do it. And it's kind of been a trend that we've seen this season. Let's talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. Ronald Acuña Jr. had a single last night, and he hit some balls pretty hard. Single was 107. He had a ground out in the 7th inning, 112 miles an hour, but right at, like, on the ground and right at a defender. And the observation about Ronald Acuña Jr. this season is, for as talented as he is, and he is one of the most just naturally talented players in baseball, he's not actually been that good. He's hitting .232 with a 742 OPS. I should have done that math before I started recording. Sorry about that. 13 home runs, 18 stolen bases. he's within range of a 2020 year if he goes on a power bench between now and the end of the year. But like, it's a 107 WRC plus. He hasn't struggled to this level. The only time in his career that he struggled to this level was 2024. And, that was a 106 WRC plus. And even then, that was supported by a 250 average. The thing that really, a 351 on base, the thing that got him was his power not being there. He had 4 homers in 49 games before getting hurt. And when he came back last year, he was kind of looking like the old Ronald. The steals weren't necessarily there. He hit 21 homers in 95 games. He walked 17% of the time. And his strikeout rate kind of sat in that same normal 23-24% range. And that's where he is this year. He's at 23.6%. Same thing he was in 2021 and 2022. Exactly same place. And within the same realm that he was in 24 and last year. The power's just not been there. The 175 ISO is the third lowest mark of his career. And Ronald historically has not been a 107 WRC plus guy. Here are some of the WRC plus numbers for Ronald Acuña Jr. in his career. There's going from when he debuted in 2018, going every single season, ignoring how many games he played. 142, 125, 158, 157, 115, 171. That was the MVP year. 106, 162, and then 107. There's a lot of red on the StatCast card. There's also some dark blue. His fielding range has always been dark blue. He's always going to be one of the worst graded defenders from a range perspective because he gets bad jumps. The sprint speed, partially impacted by him taking it easy after the hamstring injuries, multiple. And the team has confirmed that they've given him permission to sometimes not hit max speed on a routine ground out and things like that. People get mad about it, but the team has confirmed they told him to do that. Conserve his bullets, right? The sprint speed has been down overall. I will point out when it comes to hitting the max, hitting what they call a bolt, which is 30 feet per second, which is elite, right? He has 1 this year. He had 2 last year. He had 1 in 24. So he's still able to hit that same rough max that he's been able to hit. And he's settled in now. His sprint speed went from 29 and change feet per second before the first injury. Then it settled into the 28 ranges, then the second injury, and now it's settled into the 27 ranges. Which some of that's natural aging, but a lot of that is the knee injuries, right? He's losing a little bit of that top end speed. He can still reach back and get it when he needs to. But offensively, he's not there. And when you look at the reasons why, you saw this last night. Before that ground out that I mentioned, he swung through and fouled off 2 fastballs right down the middle. And that honestly has been the glaring issue for Ronald this year. We all know guys like to throw him fastballs up and in. Been a common thing. Part of the reason he adjusted his stance early in the year was to account for up and in fastballs, to be better able to see them, to get on plane and on time for them. He was plus 16 run value on forcing fastballs last year. It was 3 run value per 100 pitches seen. This year, he is at minus 9 overall run value and a minus 1.8 run value per 100 pitches. So he went, in essence, on a rate basis from plus 3 to essentially minus 2 in 1 year. His production last year on four-seam fastballs, he hit 269 with a 558 slug. This year, 121 with a 172 slug. And the frustrating part is he is whiffing less on four-seamers this year. Last year, the whiff rate against four-seamers, 33.5%. He swung and missed at about 1 in every 3 four-seamers. Almost exactly. 33.3 would be 1 in 3, right? This year, he went from 33.5% whiff rate to 32.1% whiff rate. It's not that much lower, but it is lower. He lowered his whiff rate against four-seam fastballs. The difference is he's just not getting the results on them at all. And it's not like it's a bunch of bad luck. The expected batting average off of them, remember, he's actually hitting 121 with a 172 slug. The expected batting average is a 184, which is still not good. It's still pretty awful. I will say, some of the luck, random variance, whatever you want to call it, some people get irrationally mad when I say luck. The expected slug is like 316. So there is some of the production that he's not getting as far as the extra base hits and things like that. But overall ability to make contact and put the ball into play, he's not whiffing a lot more, but he's also not hitting balls that have him likely to get on base. It's really an odd problem. And some of it comes down to he's just not able to hit the pitches that he needs to be hitting, right? And this is going to get a little bit technical here, and I apologize, especially those of you who are on audio and don't have any use of a visual aid or anything. There are 4 different, what MLB calls attack zones. And the idea behind this is, where is the pitch in relation to the plate in the strike zone? And so pitches right down the middle of the plate, they are more than a ball width inside from the edges. That is called the heart of the zone. And then the area outside that is 1 baseball width on either side of the edge of the strike zone, is called the shadow. Pitches in the shadow are, by definition, 50-50 balls, right? Anything in the shadow could be a ball, could be a strike. And especially in the age of ABS, odds are a pitch in the shadow is going to be touching just enough to get overturned to a strike on ABS. That is the shadow. Outside of that is called the chase. And these pitches are almost always called balls unless you swing. And then outside of that is called the waste. And that is, in essence, never throw those. It doesn't benefit anybody because most of the time, hitters are not going to swing at those. Pitchers are just running up your pitch count, and most hitters don't chase into the waste unless they're just bad at it. That's why it's not called chase. It's called waste. Chase is realistic chase. Waste is just a useless pitch. Ronald's been really odd in the past about the fact that he's been very, very good at hitting pitches both in the chase and in the waste areas. This season, he is at plus 14 runs on pitches in the chase. Last year, he was at plus 19. So when you count for the fact he's played less games this year than last year, he's pacing right. In the waste, last year, plus 11. This year, plus 9. Okay, he's doing fine. In the shadow of the zone, the last couple seasons for him, he's hovered around 0, right? Sometimes he's better. 21, he was at plus 8, and that was an MVP caliber season before he got hurt. 23, he was at plus 4, and that was an MVP season. 22, he was at 0. 24, he was at minus 1. 25, he was at 0. This year, minus 11. He's not hitting pitches that he is chasing when he's always been able to do that. Sorry, not chasing. He's not been hitting the borderline pitches when he's always been able to do that. That's always gone really well for him until this year. And then pitches in the heart of the zone. This has always been a frustrating thing for me with Ronald because there have been times when he has had a really good year despite being bad at pitches in the heart of the zone. 2021, again, MVP caliber production before he got hurt. He was minus 10 in the heart of the zone. When he's turned that around and he's not struck out on those pitches And he's put those pitches into play and gotten the usual power production off of them that you can expect from a grooved fastball. Like in 2023 when he was plus 14, he won MVP. That's arguably the one thing that pushed him into the MVP conversation and winning the MVP was his strikeout rate cut by more than half because he wasn't missing pitches in the heart of the zone, like ever. Last year, he was plus 4 at pitches in the heart of the zone. This year, minus 7. If you throw him a bad ball, he has good batted ball results. If you throw him a good pitch, he has bad batted ball results. It's so inexplicably weird. If you throw him a chase pitch or just complete crap, he hits it. And he has good outcomes on it. If you throw him a pitch near or in the zone, he can't seem to handle it. And I can't remember a more frustrating year for Ronald with pitches down the middle than this one. And if you go in and you look at a lot of the numbers, his whiff rate on pitches down the middle, in the heart of the zone, on four-seam fastballs in the heart of the zone, is 25%. He has a 205 slug on pitches down the middle, in the heart of the, on four-seam fastballs, in the heart of the zone. Last year, that slug was 571. His MVP season, it was 674. In 2021, it was a 553. And like you saw it last night. Again, he grounded out with the runner on base. But before that, in the at-bat, he swung through and fouled off 2 fastballs in the zone. In the first inning, as part of that whole rally, he had a fastball down the middle, and he popped out to first base. And if you look since he came back from the injury, right? Since he came back the second time from the injury, it's a 194 average. It's a 388 slug. It's like a 76 WRC plus. Now, his batting average on balls in play is like 209. And the expected numbers, he should be hitting like 250 with a 435 slug, I think, is the expected numbers since he came back from the injury. He's been unlucky. But also, he's not helping himself. He's missing the obvious pitches, the easy pitches, at a rate that he hasn't really missed before outside of that difficult and struggling 2024 season where he came back too quickly. I'm sorry, where he was having a generational slump before he got hurt. And again, last year when he came back, he was great in this situation. Fastballs in the heart of the plate, 286 average, 571 slug. He was just like crushing these pitches. This year, for some reason, he's not. And I don't really know what to do about it. That's the hard part here. I don't know how to fix this. This really feels like it is, you've got to find your timing, and there's no other way to take care of this other than just finding your timing. I don't know what that's going to take. He's playing almost every day. I don't think he's had a day off since he got back. He's DH'd a couple times, but for the most part, he's played every day. They're still hitting him in the top of the order. We saw them move Ozzie down last night, and Ozzie responded with a really good game. And so, a lot of the other stuff for Ronald is still there. Whiff rates match what he did last year, right? Strikeout rates kind of match what he did last year. And he produced. He's not this year, and it feels like the entire difference comes back to performance against fastballs. He's not amazing this year against every other pitch type, right? He's given up 20 points of batting average against breaking balls, and he's given up some slug, both actual and expected, against breaking balls. He's crushing off speed. I mean, he's destroying off speed pitching. Slug is 524. The expected is 528. It's all earned. But it's the fastball performance. Again, he hit over 300 last year on fastballs. The fastball family, four-seam sinker cutter, not just four-seamers. And this year, 215. And that's the one thing that's got to get fixed. Start hitting fastballs again. He starts hitting fastballs again, you're pretty close to Ronald getting back. And I don't know what it's going to take to lock him in. He's played against top velocity. He's faced guys who don't have great velocity. At some point in time, if Ronald locks in against four-seamers, I like sinkers, he's plus 10 this year. Like sinkers, he's doing fine. He's hitting 349 with a 730 slug on four-seamers. He's doing perfectly okay there. Cutters, he's not great against. He's also struggled there a little bit. They're thrown the least of the three to him, so whatever. But if he can figure out the four-seamer thing, this offense takes another level in October. You just got to figure it out. And hopefully, you've got a month. Hopefully they figure out how to do that. This has been Braves Today for Wednesday, August 26th. We're back later today with the scouting report. We'll break down Roki Sasaki, AJ Smith-Shawver, what they do and the keys for each team as far as getting that starter out of the game, what the bullpen situation looks like now that both teams kind of had to go to it yesterday. Not an excessive amount, but through their leverage arms, what it looks like for both teams there. So we'll do all of that on the scouting report later today on your podcast feeds, audio, and YouTube, and a written version at bravestoday.com. But please like the video, please subscribe. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.